Everyone has flaws, but some famous figures have darker sides that often go unnoticed. Though admired by many, a closer look at these celebrated individuals reveals unsettling traits and questionable actions that tarnish their legacies. Aristotle, renowned for his wisdom, unfortunately shared the common ancient philosopher's view of women. He was deeply misogynistic. Despite his intellectual achievements, his ideas on women were outdated and misguided, revealing his inability to grasp gender equality.
Philosophize with them.
All we are is dust in the wind, dude.
Or understand the roles of women in society. In her essay, Feminist History of Philosophy, Charlotte Witt explains Aristotle's deeply flawed views on women, which went far beyond the typical sexism of his time. Aristotle believed women were not fully human, but were merely deformed men. He even claimed women had fewer teeth than men, which is entirely false. Despite the biological fact that women give birth, he argued that they contribute nothing but matter, while men provide the form necessary to create human life. According to Aristotle, only male children are truly human, with women considered inferior beings. This dismissive view shows just how ingrained and extreme his misogyny was, leaving no room for equality or respect for women.
Shut it down!
Steve Jobs, the mastermind behind Apple, revolutionized technology, but his personal character leaves much to be desired. As revealed in the documentary Steve Jobs, the Man in the Machine, Jobs was often harsh and uncompromising. He even denied paternity of his daughter for years, cutting her out of his life. Despite his undeniable achievements, his ruthless side shouldn't be overlooked.
Well, after the paternity test, he then pays for her schooling and upbringing.
Jobs also partnered with Chinese factories where working conditions were grueling. The relentless pressure to produce iPads, iPhones, and other devices led to extreme exhaustion, with several workers tragically taking their own lives due to the overwhelming demands and poor treatment they endured in these facilities.
And they run to the press and they tell the press the story about oppression, and it gets written up and they get their 15 minutes of fame.
When a prototype iPhone was stolen, a journalist returned it to Jobs. Instead of expressing gratitude, Jobs had the journalist's home raided, seizing all his computers and files. The response was far from appreciative, revealing Jobs' vindictive side rather than any sense of thankfulness.
You can please some of the people some of the time.
There's no indication if any spare turtlenecks were seized during the raid. Mother Teresa, canonized as Saint Teresa in 2016, is often revered as a champion of the poor and sick. However, some reports suggest her motivations were less altruistic than they seemed. Rather than solely prioritizing aid, critics argue she was more focused on expanding her faith's reach, sometimes emphasizing religious conversion over improving the immediate conditions for those she served.
Right from the very beginning, I wanted to serve the poor purely for the love of God.
Mother Teresa's missions often fell short of truly helping the poor and sick regain health. Many of her facilities were unsanitary, under-resourced, and lacking in medical care, including pain relief. Despite these conditions, Teresa viewed suffering as spiritually meaningful, seeing it as a path to holiness. Her own words reveal this perspective, suggesting she found beauty in others' hardship rather than seeking to ease it. There is something beautiful in seeing the poor accept their lot, to suffer it like Christ's passion. The world gains much from their suffering. This principle didn't extend to Teresa herself. She received full medical care whenever necessary.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Caravaggio, celebrated as a master of Renaissance art, was also a murderer. In 2002, new revelations shed light on the true cause behind the 1606 killing of Ranuccio Tomassoni. While the commonly accepted story was a dispute over a tennis match, the real reason behind the violent act was far more complex and darker. New evidence suggests the motive behind Caravaggio's murder of Ranuccio Tomassoni wasn't a simple sports dispute, but a love triangle. Caravaggio had become infatuated with a prostitute named Filide Melandroni, who was under the control of Tomassoni. Feeling dishonored, Caravaggio confronted Tomassoni, resulting in a violent altercation that led to Tomassoni's castration and death.
Oh, that was way harsh, Ty.
Caravaggio's attempt at defending his lover's honor went horribly wrong. His aim was to castrate Tomasoni, but instead he accidentally severed the femoral artery, causing his opponent to bleed out. And that's how Caravaggio, the artist known for his dramatic works, ended up killing a pimp with a botched castration, which may be one reason he never made it as the namesake of a Ninja Turtle. Walt Disney might have created Mickey Mouse, but that doesn't mean he was a paragon of virtue. In fact, as Neil Gabler reveals in Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, Disney had a darker side, including deep-seated racist beliefs, far beyond his controversial involvement with Song of the South. Walt Disney's prejudices extended beyond racial lines. He reportedly referred to the Seven Dwarfs with a derogatory term and used offensive language like pickaninny in meetings. His disdain wasn't limited to race. He also had a deep mistrust of women. As his colleague Ward Kimball put it, he didn't trust women or cats.
Keep the faith, sweetheart.
Walt Disney's bias against women was evident when he rejected Mary Ford, who sought work as an animator. In his letter, he bluntly stated, "Women do not do any of the creative work, as that work is performed entirely by young men." He further explained that women were not considered for the training school. To add insult to injury, the letterhead featured Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, almost as if mocking her for daring to pursue a creative career in animation. Winston Churchill is celebrated for leading the fight against the Nazis in World War II, but his record is complicated. He held deeply racist beliefs, with a worldview disturbingly similar to his adversaries, revealing a side of him that history often overlooks.
We are the chosen few.
In Churchill's Empire, historian Richard Toye reveals that Churchill, as a young officer, participated in what he called jolly little wars against what he labelled barbarous peoples in Africa. He attributed African resistance to a supposed strong Aboriginal propensity to kill, dismissing any role of British imperialism in their opposition. Later, as a Member of Parliament, he pushed for expanded conflict with non-European groups, asserting that Aryan stock is bound to triumph. Regarding the Kurds' efforts for independence, Churchill openly supported using chemical weapons, stating, "I am strongly in favour of using poisoned gas against uncivilized tribes, believing it would spread a lively terror." His cavalier attitude towards warfare and colonial brutality often sounds as if it were lifted from the dialogue of a comic book villain.
Oh no, Thundercat! I am not so easily disposed of!
Churchill's disdain for India's independence movement was no secret. He once remarked, "I hate Indians. They are a beastly people with a beastly religion." His hostility toward India persisted, and in 1943, during a devastating famine that claimed nearly 3 million lives, he withheld crucial aid, reportedly attributing the crisis to Indians breeding like rabbits. This indifference stood in stark contrast to his wartime speeches championing resilience and survival. Given such views, it's not surprising that President Obama chose not to display Churchill's bust in the White House.
All of you will be damned. There is no place in heaven for you.
Mahatma Gandhi, often regarded as a champion of peace, had complexities beyond his political struggles. According to biographer Judd Adams, Gandhi wrestled deeply with his own desires, at one point even leaving his dying father's side to be with his wife. This event, occurring when he was 15 and she 16, haunted him with guilt and spurred his lifelong commitment to self-control over lustful love, a vow he kept with some exceptions. Gandhi's personal battles reveal the complex human side behind his public ideals.
It is time you left.
At 38, Gandhi pledged to live a life of chastity, though he tested this vow in ways that many found unsettling. One method involved sleeping naked beside young women, often much younger than himself, and sometimes with multiple women at once. This controversial practice, intended as a test of his self-control, has raised ethical questions about his personal life and choices.
You dog!
Gandhi held others to rigorous standards of chastity, expecting his followers to avoid marriage or, if married, to abstain from marital intimacy altogether. Married couples living on his compounds were separated and instructed to suppress any desires, with cold baths prescribed as a remedy for unwanted urges. While Gandhi's leadership was pivotal to India's independence, his strict, often contradictory views on sexuality, especially in guiding the young women around him, reveal a complex and controversial side to his character.